Let's take a look at a bicycle class. Here's a bicycle. It's got a certain number of gears. When the bike is first made, you specify the gears. So you can order a bike from the factory with 15 gears or 21 gears. And when you do so, the bicycle remembers how it was made. Notice also that the current gear starts out at 1. This is just a convenience, which is just saying that when the bike comes from the factory, all bikes are going to be in gear 1. There's some getters and some setters. When you pedal, the speed goes up. When you brake, the speed goes down. You can shift up, which advances the gear by 1. And notice that there's an if statement here that prevents the gear from going past the maximum gear. We also wrote a unit test for the bicycle. And here's the test for when the bike first starts, or when the bike is first made. We make a brand new bicycle with 21 gears, and then the first thing we do is we ask the bicycle, how many gears do you have? And we say, I think that the answer should be 21. All we're doing there is checking to see whether or not the constructor is remembering the number of gears that the bike was created with. We also check to make sure that when the bike is made, its speed is 0 and that its current gear is set to 1. So these are just mirroring our expectations of what we expect to happen in the bicycle constructor. There's another unit test that checks to see whether or not you can pedal just once. So we make a brand new bicycle, we pedal just once, ask the bike how fast it's going, and instead of a speed of 0, it should now have a speed of 1. Notice that the speed of 0 was checked when the bike was first made so that we don't have to recheck it. Another thing to notice about these unit tests is that they're totally independent. The my bike that's created in this method has no relation at all to the my bike that's created in that method. Our third test is to see whether or not you can pedal many times. And so we make a new bicycle with 21 gears, we pedal it once, check the speed, make sure that the speed has gone up by 1, and we pedal again, check the speed, make sure the speed has gone up to 2, etc. And we keep pedaling, and you can see that there's a pattern forming here, going 1, 2, 3, 4 with the speed going up, and then eventually we brake and we expect the speed to go down. Now you could write a loop to do this sort of thing, and that's normally what you do in practically any other piece of code that you'd see. But in this case, we want people to be able to recognize the pattern very easily, because people are better at recognizing patterns than they are at trying to figure out loops. So it makes it very obvious that the speed keeps going up, and then we do something that causes the speed to go down. We try gearing up once. So this is now moving on from speed to gearing up. Make a brand new bicycle, shift up. It was in gear number 1, so it should be in gear number 2 now. Now notice, even though the constructor essentially checked to see that we were in gear 1 first, this test seems a little odd because we somehow magically get to gear number 2. So here's something that you could do which would make the test a little more clear, which is just to repeat the information again about what gear we happen to be in. So I'm just going to change this a little bit. So now the unit test says, let's make a bike with 21 gears. Let's just get the current gear before we do anything, and just to be sure, it should be in gear number 1. We'll shift up, and now that should be in gear number 2. So sometimes it really helps to repeat things in tests just so that you can make them more clear. Here's a test that gears up many times, makes a brand new bicycle, shifts up once, checks the current gear, it should now be 2, shifts up again, it should be 3, and shifts up again, it should be 4. The question comes, what do you do if you want to test maximum gear? Well, there's a few ways to go about it. One way would be to repeat this pattern over and over and over again and have a big long unit test that eventually gets to 21. Another way would be to write a loop, but the problem with a loop is that they're hard to understand. The simplest way to check to see whether or not it reaches maximum gear is to lower the number of gears that the bicycle starts with, so that instead of using a 21 gear bike, we use a 3 gear bike, and then it becomes pretty obvious that you gear up to gear number 3, shift up again, and it should stay in gear number 3. And the last point about these tests, you see that we repeated this test for every test that we've made except the last couple. We've made a brand new bicycle every time. If you find yourself repeating these things over and over again, you can actually make test data. Okay? So in this case, rather than making the bicycle here, what we'll do is we'll go up into the setup method and we'll make a new bicycle there. To make the bicycle variable visible, we have to make sure that the bicycle object or the variable is declared at the start of the class. So this operates just like a normal class in that sense. We'll make the bicycle visible to the entire class, and then we'll get rid of this line. So now, as long as you have a test that wants to make a 21-gear bicycle, what you can do is you can just simply remove that statement, and the bicycle will get made for the start of every test. Okay. So in this case, this my bike is visible to the initialized method, but notice that when every test starts to run, the very first thing that happens is a brand new bicycle is created. In other words, the bicycles are independent in each test, even though they were created by the setup method over and over again. Here's a case where this bicycle variable is different from the one at the start of the class, and the reason it's different is because the new bicycle variable is declared inside these braces, which means that it now has a lifetime from this brace down to that brace. And so in effect, this bicycle redeclaration hides the other bicycle. It doesn't make much difference in this case. We should actually just eliminate this one and just have the setup method do it. But you'll see down here, once we get to making something that aren't bicycles with 21 gears, there's no problem with remaking a bike, for instance, for this last test, in order to say, I'm just going to make a bicycle with 3 gears, even if it has the same name that's hidden. And we'll just double check by running the test, run it as a unit test, and there's all of our tests with their proper names, showing that they all completed successfully.